Hi and welcome to the channel. This video is a step-by-step guide in building the DX Commander Expedition 2024 model. It takes you from the very beginning of unpacking the antenna all the way to the final tune. There's lots of tips included in the video. I hope you find it useful. And before we begin, I suggest you download the instructions from the DX Commander website and read them alongside this video. So just before we start, I've unpacked the boxes just to show what's in the kit. So we've got the new pole in its new stealth colours, 100 metres of wire, so that's the radiating elements and the ground radials, the new spreader plates, that'll focus, with the recesses in the edges for the bungee cord, driven and ground plane elements and a clamp, a bag of connectors, bolts, bungee cord and so on, clamps for the pole, the connector for the coax and some stickers and so on. So that's what you get in the 2023 Expedition Pack. So this is that bag of bits sorted out, and you get a handy quality control checklist as well. So we've got bolts, washers, wing nuts, fork connectors, glue line, heat shrink, paracord, bungee cord, that's the elasticated cord, one hex nut, interested to see what that's for, some silicon tubing and some plastic wing nuts as well. And also on the checklist, which is in the separate box, are these straps, which are obviously something to do with holding it all together. So everything's present and correct, and I think now to start the build. So I'm going to start the build by adding the bolts and wing nuts and washers to the two base plates. This is the bottom plate that holds the ground radials and takes the coax feed, and this is the driven plate. When it's in place on the pole, it sits like that, so this takes the driven elements. So some simple steps first: bolts, plates. So you'll see these plates are pre-threaded, so when you're putting the bolts in, you're not trying to strangle them, just get them in and just nip them up so they're tight, but don't go at it, otherwise you'll strip the threads. But just a case of putting the washers and the wing nuts on. So now we need to fit the SO239 socket to this base plate. You don't need this solder tab, so we'll do that now. So it's just a case of unscrewing the nut off the back, taking off that bit, keep the washer, so we need the washer as well, pass the socket through the front, so don't make the mistake of passing it through the rear, through the front, tooth washer and nut. So there we go. You need to hold that end. I held it with some pliers and I tightened that, round pliers, and that won't be going anywhere now. So now we're ready to fit the base plate to the bottom of the pole. This unscrews, so this is the bottom, and that's metal, which is an upgrade to the previous model. So that comes off. This has a handy insert, so you can take that off, which is what I do when I have that on there. I have a ground spike that just reaches up inside there just to keep the base firm. So that's a handy feature. And some drain holes as well, so it can breathe if you put it away damp. So ground plate, snug fit. And that's tight, so that's never coming off there again basically. So next we've got to fit the driven plate down to here. This is metal on this new model, so to avoid those two plates shorting, there's a clip, this clip, which you can see is toothed and will clamp together, so don't push that until you've got it on here. End cap off. Oh yeah, that's a flexible end cap. The older model was a stiff plastic, which sometimes was quite hard to get on there when it was cold. So clip down the tube, down to the base. I'll try and do this. Clip that a bit more. So that's now lost the so that's clipped on there above this metal plate, and now the driven plate with wing nuts up. Slides down, and now I can put the end cap back on because it's all starting to slide out and extend. So now we need to clamp that driven plate in place, and again, once this base has been set up, you wouldn't really undo any of this for transportation. I never have on my previous model. I think even if you were backpacking, you wouldn't undo this. You'd keep this all fixed into place. So the next thing we need to do is take one of these straps, and if you remember, there was all these wing nuts. For this base, we've got the one off, which is what that hex nut was for, and that's to fit down here. So next thing to do is attach this strap. So these straps go around the pole, and you can see where this hex nut goes through. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah. And I noticed Callum trimmed some of these to size beforehand, but just in case I cut it too short, I'm going to go for full length and maybe trim it once I've got it on. So that goes down there out of the way of a wing nut and holds this snug on here, and you're aiming for one of the side on this little proud area being opposite the feed point, so that's where the fork connector goes. So this pushes into there, and as you can see, then it screws through. Well, it spins on a point and takes up that thread. So get this in here, pass that through, and there you can see that's now taking up the thread. You can see what I mean. This has got quite a bit of excess on. So now I'll need a spanner or a tip to fit that and screw that down onto there. So it's taking up the thread. I'm going to tighten that, keep this tight, hold that down, and then everything's snug. So I've changed the angle. I've got sunlight coming from the right, so this casts less shadows. So those bolts were 10mm. This is 8mm, and I've got that on a very low setting. So I'm just going to nip that up a little bit. On a very, very light clutch. And we're looking for one of these opposite, so I just need to move that round a bit so that's out of the way, so I've got clear access and that nut there. So I'm just going to tighten that there. I'm going to hand tighten it now. And that should, just need to pull that down. So you see that's a little bit loose. So I'm just going to slacken that off a bit. pull this down, tighten that up. It'll rotate, but it's now solid. So now it's a case of fastening the coax feed onto the driven plate underneath that washer. And as I said, this base setup, you won't change it. That's it. So that's it. So you can see the braid of the coax feeds this bottom plate for the radials that are attached to these. The centre of the coax feeds this top plate, and your elements go up the pole. So that's the base effectively done now. So the next step is to loose fit the section clips to the pole. So there's 8 of these, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 8 wing nuts as well. So these are all fitted along the sections as the pole extends, and as you tighten the pole, that's generally good enough to keep it up. But these are a bit of belt and braces, especially if you're guying, because the guys can sometimes pull down as well. So it's a case of attaching these into the, like that, and then getting them on the pole. So they've all got the wing nuts inserted now, and a case of effectively putting them on the pole. And I can understand why Callum trimmed the ends of these, because as you go up to the smaller sections of the pole, there's going to be a lot of spare. Yeah, that's we'll see how we get on anyway, because the top end of the pole is quite thinner than the bottom. Whether I cut those in advance or cut them once they're on the pole, I'm not sure, but let's see anyway. I'll get these on. Right, so I've come outside. It's blowing a gale out here, so hopefully there's no wind noise. We're definitely autumnal in the UK now. So here's the pole extended for the very first time, and you can see it's all out. So now I need to just take these along to the various joints. You can see one there, and so on and so forth, and just nip them up to roughly the right diameter as we go down the pole. So once you've used this base clamp, there are 8 more for the joints, and they are literally for each section up the pole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the next joint takes the top spreader plate, which I've just put on loose there. So the pole keeps going that way, and these are the clamps we now need to tighten for the diameters the poles are on. And you can see they sit just above the joint, so they're effectively stopping this one sliding down into that one. My deployments used to be up for a few days, so I used to tape these joints, but now it's much easier with these. But as you can see there's going to be a hell of a lot of slack, but I think I might still tighten it and then cut, unless I get confident having done some of these bottom ones first. I don't want to overcut, but you can see where they all go, every joint up the pole. So there, I've got them all on, and you can see as you move up the pole, the amount of spare tab gets progressively longer. But like I say, it only took about 5 more minutes, and now I can trim these off. Just a little tip: if you do this method when you're doing that screwing, hold that round like that while you're screwing with your hand, and then this doesn't rub your finger as you're turning. So what I might also do is just temporarily number these with a little label, so I know what order they're in for putting back on. It may be obvious once they're off, but I think better safe than sorry. So now I'm going to cut the excess off, label these, and then take them back off the pole for the next step. So there you go, I've chopped off, just trimmed the edge, put a number on. Might not need that, but like I say, I can always take it off later. and label it up properly if I want to keep it. So they've all been trimmed. You can see they're all very neat now. And out of interest, there's my DX Commander Classic stored up against the house. And down here is a future project when the wind stops. This is the classic base which I use for quarter wave verticals without the pole at the moment. My top band quarter wave became loose in the tree, so these go up into that tree. But I need the wind to drop and maybe some less leaves on the tree to get the quarter wave back up, which basically goes over the top of the tree. There's 40 metres of wire there. This is the Kevlar wire that Callum provides as well, so you can buy that. Very strong. It was quite handy that for pulling it out the tree because it was stuck. The regular to the channel, the 5/8 vertical for 10 metres is still in the tree. You can just see the choke, the ferrite choke there, just to the left of that chimney pot. That's the base of the aerial, and it goes up over a branch somewhere up there, that one I think. Worked some good 10 metre DX this morning on that. So anyway, back to the DX Commander. I think it's now time to cut the elements. So back inside out the wind, here's all the ties. I don't know if you can see there, I've just trimmed the corners off those tabs, so as you're tightening it in the field, you're not catching yourself on any sharp edges. So whether I needed a number or not, I don't know, but anyway. So now it's time for the DX10 and cutting the radiating elements. I'm going for a 4-wire build. You'll see in the latest instructions, well at the time of this video, there's a cut chart for 20, 10 and 40. You get 15 as a bonus out of 40. So it's a 3-wire build on those instructions. I'm going to add 17 as well. And if you look on the original instructions for all DX Commander aerials, there's a cut chart there. Obviously I'll use a little bit more wire for one more element for 17, but there'll still be enough for all the radials. So those to one side. I need fork connectors, some wire cutters and a steel tape. So I've got all the tools ready. Crimping pliers are really good if you're doing a lot of these. Normal pliers will work, but a good set of crimping pliers can make the job far better. So I'm firstly going to put a connector on there and then measure that wire out for 40 meters. I'm going to temporarily label it so it's easy to identify, and away we go. So I've tinned the end of the wire. I've got a connector ready loaded in the crimping pliers, and a tip: don't forget in focus. Don't push the wire too far up the connector, otherwise the wing nut won't have a landing pad there. You need a nice flat surface. So don't go right up to the end. You just need to get somewhere about halfway along. So if I crimp that, and now we've got enough to solder. So I'll just rest this on there, heat that up, and give it a good amount of solder, let it flow down in the connection. There we go, and we're going to heat shrink this. Obviously we can pass the heat shrink up the other end of the wire. So a case of measuring for 40 meters on the cut chart, and then for me 17, 20 and 10 as well. So I've got some more of these to make. So for measuring, I weigh the crimp down with a hammer and some tools. We're measuring from the end of the wire where the wire leaves the crimp, and you need to keep the wire nice and tight, which I'll pull tight when I make a cut down there. So the wire nice and tight before a cut's made down this end. So you can see I've cut a section of glue lined heat shrink pushed it up away from either end, get it onto the shoulders of the fork, and I'm going to use a lighter. You might have a heat gun, or I'll just bring that camera up a bit, and just on a gentle flame, keep turning, moving the flame around so you don't burn the heat shrink. And you can see the glue just starting to come out the end there. Just tap that down. So we need to do that with all the connectors. So there we are, they're all connected now. Just temporary labels so I know which is which when there's 4 bits of black wire on the floor, and then there's radials to come as well, so you can easily get mixed up. So this is the end of the cutting of the radiating elements, and like I say, I'm going for 40, 20, 17 and 10, but other bands are available. Right, so we're back outside. I've got the pole fully extended again, and I've added the plates and the clamps, and I'm glad I numbered them because it was handy putting it back together, and also I think I'll number the plates as well, but I'll see when I get to the end. So basically, just so you know what goes where, to save you the effort of figuring it out. So there's the bottom section. So the first wing nut clamp goes, all these clamps go just above the joint. So number 1, number 2, then the first base plate, remembering to put the recess on the top, and you'll know which order's which because the base plate's the only one that gets down this far, and it's the largest. Then there's number 3 clamp, number 4 clamp, number 5 clamp, and the middle spreader. So this is the second of the 3, just to show you where we've come from. So that sits on clamp number 5, and then we've got number 6, number 7, final clamp number 8, and the top spreader sits on that joint there. So you need to make sure you've extended your pole as you would in deployment, so as you extend the bottom sections, give them a twist. I can't do 2 hands, I've got the camera in one hand, but give it a twist so you know it's tight. Make sure these bottom sections are all fully extended. The top sections I wouldn't pull out too hard, just make sure they are in place, because as I've found in the field, if you're cold and wet, getting these top 2 back in, if you've pulled that tight, that's quite hard sometimes. So just be careful with these top finer sections. But that's the layout of the pole when you're trying to put it together ready for these elements. So top spreader 8, 7, 6, middle spreader 5, 4, 3, bottom spreader 2, 1, the base. So I've got my elements here. Like the first expedition I had, I have the Mark 1 model. I'm going to go for 40, 20 and 17, and as you know I've got a 10 as well there somewhere. And what I've done before is I've used 10 or 80, and I've gone off at that top spreader, so you can get 80 up here and go off as an inverted L. And we need a little different setup here because of the recesses in the plate, so I'll show you that later. So Callum's instructions: feed 40 metres opposite the coax feed, so there's the bottom plate, so 40 is coming off there. So we're going to take 40 up through that bottom spreader, and this is where the first shock cord will be. All those elements are longer than this bottom spreader, so they'll all have a 3-inch piece of shock cord taking up the slack, and we'll progress down the pole. So first things first, get 40 on first. So another tip is to slide on some heat shrink before you start forming the loop. because you want it down this end of the element, about 1 inch, 2.5 centimetres. Put the element into the bottom spreader, tension it, and we're looking for 3 inches or so, 7.5 centimetres down from the bottom of this bottom spreader. So we're going to form a loop for the shock cord to go through, and then we need the element to go back up the aerial, up the antenna. So slide on the heat shrink. That can be quite small, it just needs to be big enough to get the shock cord through, because the knot's going to be on the other side. And then I happen to have, I don't have a heat gun, but I've got this out of the kitchen. And then just melt the heat shrink as we did before on the connectors. Try not to burn it, like that. There we go. And don't be tempted to pull that till it's cooled, otherwise you'll pull it all out. So now to cut some shock cord for there. So there's, if you Google the internet, there's lots of ways of doing a stopper knot, but basically take your shock cord, make a normal overhand loop, and just pass it through again. So you've gone through 3 times, and then if you pull that tight near the end so you're not wasting shock cord, then that's your overhand knot. But the trick is to do it through the loop you've just made on the element. So we'll undo that knot, take the element, pass the shock cord through, and then the usual knot through once, through again, pull that one tight because we know that one's going to be there, trim the end, just seal that so it doesn't So there you see we've got the knot through the loop. So again we're going to tie a knot on this side now. So you're looking for some stretch, so about there. So if we tie a knot below there, we're just going to stretch that into there. So I'll cut a bit of shock cord off. Easier said than done. Right, so we want a knot about there. Probably cut this a bit too long, but it's my first one, so you're allowed to make a mistake. I'm not going to pull this tight yet, just till that just needs to be up a bit so I can move it along a little bit more. I'm just overstretching that. Pass a bit through, shimmy the knot along again, and there we go, and that sits snug. And again, trim this tail, heat it so it doesn't unravel. And you can see that element goes in, shock cord goes in. Now to do the rest. So once you've done one, you get quite adept at doing this. So I've now got 3 elements on, 40, 17 and 20, and as you've seen before, these just clip through there and the stop knots are holding them fine. So I'm now going to put 10 on as well. There's 3 additional positions to put elements, so you could put 6 in total. The 10 element is going to go onto one of these, so I'll do that now, and then I'll have all four in place. So you can see now I've got 10 on one of the sides of the plate, so we've got 4 elements now, and it's a case of repeating the same process up here onto the next spreader. Now 40, 20 and 17 will go beyond there, 10 will fall short, and there's a need to put bungee cord down to the tip of 10. In the instructions, Callum's got a new way of making a connection on the end of 10 if you want to run high power, or a fold back would suffice if you're going to run low power. I'm only going to make this once, so I might as well make it for the high power version, even though I'll only be running 100 watts. So same again, up that way. And before I forget, down the plate end of the antenna, these connectors have just been bent up over, so once you get them fastened in, you can give them a bend, so there's less strain on the wire as it leaves, but they're all there, and there's room for more, as you can see. So you join me at the middle spreader. I've got 20, 17 and 40 done, same fashion. These are all still, these loops are 3 inches 7.5 centimeters down from the plate. This 3 inches, by the way, isn't an exact science, it's just a thing of neatness in terms of they're all the same, plus you're not wasting shock cord. What's the point of being down here if you can be up here? So the loop and its distance is just for uniformity. But what I found was, and you'll find this your own sweet spot yourself, when I was cutting the shock cord, and that was a full length, before that not, I was using a 12 centimeter length, which is 4 3/4 inches. So you'll find your sweet spot as well. So tying a knot in a 12 centimeter length just got me to the right tension for a 3-inch drop. So you'll find your own happy medium. So I've got the 3 main elements there. 10 is languishing down on the floor. I'm going to come back to 10. So now I'm going to go further up to the top spreader, which is there, and basically carry on with 20 and 17. They won't get as far as the top spreader, so they'll need elastic to hold them, and they'll need a fold back as well. So here we are at the top spreader. I've got 20 with a 6 centimeter fold back temporarily taped up, and the 6 centimeters as per the instructions. A longer piece of shock cord this time. Now 17, if you remember, the kit is designed for 40, 20 and 10. 17 ends about there. You can see that white tape. So that's quite a long run to the top spreader in terms of how much shock cord I've got left. I've got lots of shock cord left, but I've got to do the top and I've got to do 10. So I'm going to leave 17 for now, and then I'm going to work on 10 down there and 40 at the top, and then if my shock cord is a little bit short, I can pad it out with some paracord. So I'm going to go down to 10 now, and here we are, literally a couple of minutes later. I've put 10 on. Here we are, a bit of tape holding it in place and some shock cord. I've changed my mind again. If you remember, I mentioned earlier, Callum's got a connection design here on this end of this element for 10 and 12 as well, to take high power. Because the original design was for a 40, 20 and 10 deployment, those measurements might differ ever so slightly for this 10. So I'm going to leave that as a fallback, and at future if I want I can do the connection, but fallback will be fine, and then I can adjust this to take into account that I've got 40, 20 and 17 on. So if you took Callum's original deployment suggestion of 40, 20 and 10, these original measurements will be fine. This is just a tinkering with the design, and of course, as we saw earlier, you could add on other elements as well, and I'll be swapping out 10 for 80 at times as well. So now we've got to go to the top end and do 40, and then I'll tackle 17. And for 40 we need to measure 9.36 meters from the driven plate up the pole. and that's where the top of the bend will be in the element. And you can see here on my pole 9.36 metres is that far off the end, but you measure from that end because how you pull the pole out and how your pole's made will vary. So you're measuring, I know the top of that tape is 9.36, so the loop will come up to there on the end of the element. And what I forgot to say in my hurry to get down to 10, alongside 20 at the top spreader, I've attached another one for 40, so there's another 3-inch shock cord. Right, so you can see down from the top plate I've got the 40 element. If I just pull it tight, just loosely wound round the pole to stop slap when it's up in the air, and then at this end where I had the tape as the marker, there's my loop ready for some shock cord. Now if you look on the floor, there's a mound of loose wire. There's about I don't know, a metre or 2 metres there. That's the fall back, so at intervals this is going to be taped back. If I move along a bit there, so basically just unravel this and just tape at points. This is just temporary while we tune the antenna, but 40 is so forgiving. This should be fine, and we'll see how we get on. So I'm just going to loosely tape this up, and then the next task is to get some shock cord to that tip which holds this element up. So here we are back at the top of 40. There's my marker on the pole. There's a new stop knot in the shock cord around the loop, and if I just pan that way, there's the loose wound fold back, and there's some white tape just holding it in temporary place. So there's a loose twist all the way down to the upper spreader. So an improvement to this model expedition is, again, we're having a stop knot on this end, which is a little bit of tension on 40, not enough to bend the pole but just to keep it straight. A little bit of tension on 40 with a stop knot there, using this silicon tubing which you've got in your kit. The shock cord will pass through the tube with a knot on the end will then slot over the end of the tip. So I'll do that now and show you what it looks like once it's complete. So here we are with the shock cord just tensioning now the element. There's the tubing, just a loose knot at the moment, and that's how much stretch I've got. So just a little stretch, so it's going to sit like that. So I'm going to tighten that knot and trim this off, and it looks like I might have enough shock cord for 10, or was it 17? I can't remember. No, it was 17, wasn't it? I've got 17 to do. I did 10, so fingers crossed that's enough. Otherwise I can just pad it out with a bit of paracord. Right, so I'm going to finish off this knot and show you the end when it's done. So there you can see the end of 40, that loop, stopper knot, shock cord, tubing, another knot, and if I just pan left a bit, so it's easy on and off. Right, so now to use what I've got left for 17. Well, I'm just a little bit unlucky. There's 17. I'm going to bring this round here. There's the end of the shock cord. At a stretch I can get there, but that is overstretching it. So I'm going to put on a bit of paracord just to extend this shock cord. So easily sorted because you've got bags of paracord for guys in the kit. So just that small section of paracord, I've tied it onto the end of the 17 element, and that's where my shock cord starts, and my shock cord goes up to the top spreader. So that's 17 sorted. So all the elements are on now. I'll do a quick walk down the antenna, and then time for making radials. Right, just a quick walkthrough, starting with a blunt end. Just temporary labels. What I do, I put some good labels on these. I also write on here with indelible ink which element goes where on the plate, the driven plate. So we've got 17, 20, 10, and hiding down there is 40. Moving up past the clamp to the bottom spreader. Everything goes through here. So there's the shock cord tensioning all four. Another clamp. Excuse the noise of the tractor. So this is the top of 10. Temporary tape, because we're just going to check the tune before we fix that with heat shrink. And remember, these shock cords form part of the element now, so when you're disassembling, you just take that off and keep this in one piece, so that just fastens back on. So 17, 20 and 40 keep going. This is the top of 17, again some temporary tape till we tune and fix that with heat shrink. My short extension of paracord, which is neither here nor there, and here we go, that's the long stretch of shock cord, and we're up here now. That's the top of 20, again temporary fixed, medium length shock cord. So then we're at the top spreader. The only thing going past here is 40. It's got its same 3-inch shock cord, and then we've got the element going up, a slow helically wound, it's unravelled itself, and temporary tape on the fold back to the top, which again, there's the top of 40, there's the shock cord, and there's the silicone and the knot holding it on. So that's, in theory, that's everything done as a temporary setup on the antenna itself, and now we'll do some make some radials. So we're back inside, which is a good thing because we're getting quite nippy out there and starting to get dark. So this is time to make the radials. This is the DX10 wire again. There's lots of information on radials and how they work, and the number of length in Callum's guide, so I advise you to read that. I'm going to try and get 20, because there's 4 per connector, and we've got 5 connectors on that base plate. Trying to get 20 3.5 metre length radials. I haven't done the maths. This was 100 metres to start with. I think there'll be enough. So whatever fits your location, but I'm going, as I've used before on my Mark 1 expedition, quite successfully, 20 3.5 metre length radials. Whether I use up all this wire or not, I don't know. So here we've got the four radials paired off, and well, they were twisted together. And if you remember, it doesn't matter if you don't, the world won't end. If you put some heat shrink on before you heat up this end, because once the glue detects heat, it'll set. So if you slide that down away from all the action, and then we're going to tin these up. That's theory. So here we go. Get some solder. Heat up the job. There we go. So they're all connected together electrically. So that'll pass through the crimp. If you remember before, through the connector, sorry, we need an area where the wing nut can come down. So that's a little bit long. So I'm just going to cut some of that off. Again, a connector in the crimping pliers, pass it through, just sticking out, and crimp. And there you can see we've got a good mechanical connection, and now holding onto the radial so they don't fly off onto the floor. Just going to get some solder into this, heat up the job. Let that run down. and there we go. And now when this cools, don't do it yet, slide up the heat shrink, and then again, as before, with a lighter, cool flame or whatever you've got, just to set that. And you have to do 5 of these, so 5 connectors, each with 4 radials. And don't forget the heat shrink, but it doesn't matter if you do. So here we are finally with 5 sets of 4 radials. I did struggle getting that heat shrink to push back up onto the crimps. It was quite a struggle. So this is just some additional heat shrink. It's a wider gauge, and that's gone in there nicely. And it doesn't matter about the heat shrink. My other radials that I've used fine for years have never had heat shrink on, so this is a first for me. It looks all very neat and tidy. So now it's all complete. It's time to do some testing and tuning. And what I forgot to say, I've still got some wire left, so more radials or maybe some extra elements. Right, so here we are, another day, all set up, radials on the ground, and the antennas fully extended. It's not as near to the tree as it might look. I've removed my other quarter waves out the way just in case they interact. So that's what 20 radials look like, plus the coax running off to the right. I have got some swanky new paracord and guying material, but I'm just using my existing old ones for now. I've got some carabiners on the bottom spreader, a slip knot, the sort of knot you'd use on a tent guy, and just pegged on the floor. Very easy to set up, and everything's all tensioned up. And now we're going to do a test and see how it fares on its first tune. Right, so I've borrowed an antenna analyzer. Zoom in, fire it up. You can do this with a rig SWR meter or a separate SWR meter. It's just easier with an analyzer. And I've got a notepad and pen, so I can take notes. So we're on 40 meters, and we're looking for a dip, so that SWR and this meter are the same, so we're looking for a dip on here, down, up, down, up, down, down. So 7127 on 40, I'll make a note of that. I'll come back and do this. 20 meters, so 71, yeah, that looks okay to me. Middle of the band, 70 to 72 here in the UK. 20 meters, looking for the dip again. .1. Let's talk about 1. If we go up into the voice section of the band, 14.2, it's rising. So that's for voice, which is what I use. That's a little bit low. So that means it's a little bit long, so I can fold that one back a bit more. 17 meters, somewhere up here, which is a narrow band. So I'm high because I want to be 18.06 to 18.16, and that's 18.3. I'll go down, yeah, so I'm a bit short on that one. So I can undo some of the fallback, and these high frequencies, it's less and less fallbacks required in terms of movement of resonance. The higher the frequency, the less adjustments needed. So if we go to 15 meters, which is up here somewhere, so 1.2 is the lowest I can get. Where are we? Where's that dip? 21.4. So that's a little bit high. The band's 21 to 21.450. So that wants to be lengthened a bit. Now that, if you remember, is the harmonic of the 40 meter element. So I need to make an adjustment on 40. But a 40 is quite forgiving, so you can you can tweak 40 to sweeten up 15 and not really affect 40. So the last one, change the setting on here, is 10 meters. Now I cut 10 meters differently to Callum's measurement because of the fold back I was using rather than the electrical connection he was using for high power. So let's see where this lands. 27.5, so that'd be good if I was on the CB calling frequency, but I need to be shorter to raise the frequency, so that's easy to do as well. So it's all just adjustments of fallbacks. Why this will vary from the original setup, I've added 17 meters and I've also not made that electrical connection on 10, so that will send the adjustments out a little bit, but as you can see, not far out. So I'll make notes of these and then I'll do some adjustments and come back. Right, I'm back. So following the instruction guide, Callum reckons 10 centimeters off the 40 element fold back is about 100 kilohertz on 15 meters on the harmonic. So that's literally what I've cut off the fold back. So as easy as that, just a case of loosening the guys, dropping it down, away you go. So where are we? So we go down to up to 15 meters, which is 21 megahertz. And by the way, accepted wisdom is to tune on a multiband antenna, tune the lower frequency first, which is effectively what we're doing here with the 40 meter wire. So where's the dip now? So you tune the lowest one first and then you work your way up. So we'll look at 40 in a sec. So 1.1 on 21.3, so that's spot on, and 1.1 is lower than the 1.2 we had before. So let's see what that's done to, hopefully that's left 40 meters okay. So what we were last time, we were 7.1. That's fine by me. I'm a voice operator mainly, well 99.99% of the time. Where's that dip? I'm just looking at this. Yeah, that's fine. Right, so before I do anything else, 20 meters. So just to see if that's affected 20 at all, or do I still need to shorten it, because 20 was a little bit low at 14.1. Yeah, that's unaffected, 14.1. So I'm just going to take a fraction off 20, so I'll take 2. I'm going to go for 2 centimeters. Because it's very easy dropping the antenna and doing a tweak. It's just a fallback. Right, I'm going to take off 2 centimeters. Watch this space. Right, so time that 3.5 minutes just to slacken the wing nuts on the radials and take off the carabiners. Right, so that 6 centimeter fallback is now 8 centimeters. So the element is a little bit physically shorter. So if I can maybe fold that back a bit more. So I've gone from a 14.1 to 14.1.5. I'll take another 2 centimeters off. I'm just trying to get that maybe 220, something like that. So back in a sec. Right, 10 centimeter fold back. Well, hey. That'll do me. 1.0 to 2, 14.2. And again, check it hasn't affected the other bands, so going up to 17 metres. Yep, so that's still high, which means it's too short. I need to make it a little bit longer, and again, as the frequencies are going up, the adjustments are less and less. So I want to be 14, what am I saying? I want to be 18.068, 18.168. I'm going to go for 3 centimetres off the fallback. Wish me luck. Right, so that standard 6 centimetre fallback is now 3 centimetre fallback, and amending a fallback is less critical than actually cutting the element. So playing with a fallback is, and you can always add it back on very easily. So if we go down, so it's gone down a bit to 200. So I still want to be sort of the 18.130 region, so I need about 100 off. So I'll make it a little bit longer again. Right, we're on a 1 centimetre fallback, which is getting a bit close. Ooh, that'll do. Yeah, that's fine. Covers the whole band there, 1.1. So that's great. I realised why I'm short of wire on that 17 element. On this new model, the cut chart gives the main frequencies 20, 40 and 10. I took the cut chart measurement for 17 off the old Expedition model, but obviously on this one there's those 2 loops holding the shock cord as it makes its way up the pole. So I've lost a little bit of length on those 2 fallback loops where the shock cord takes a stopper knot, which is why I'm very short on fallback. I can still hold it alright, it's not under much tension, so that's the reason for that. That's me going off piste a bit. Right, so last band is 10 again, which shouldn't have moved. I could have saved time by cutting this while everything was down, but I didn't. So yeah, we're still down 27.5, so that's too long. So I'll take an amount off that. I want to be around about 28.5. So I'll have a think about that as I work my way down the garden. But again, it's just fallback, so I'm making this element shorter to move it up the frequency. Again, watch your space. Right, I've gone for a 10 fallback. So 1 at 20, so a little bit more, because I want to be sort of 28.5, so I want to be up here. So a bit more off. Right, I made an executive decision. A fallback longer than 10 on 10 metres seemed a bit long, so I've cut 5 centimetres off and made a 6 centimetre fallback. There we go, 28.3. So a little bit more fallback and I'm done, I think. Right, this must be it. I think if it wasn't for the filming it, I think this would take about half an hour. Yeah, happy with that. 1.0 at 28.5. So quick last whiz round, 40 metres. Yep, 7135. 20 metres, (14.2), 17 metres, (18.130), 15 metres, 21.3, and 10 metres. Well, we've just been there, haven't we? 28.5. There's a tune on 6 meters, but you'd have to have pretty good sporadic heater to get anywhere. You maybe get that down with a tuner, but hey, it's a HF antenna. So I would say that took about 30 minutes, and all in all, somewhere in my pocket I've got there we go. So with the fallbacks, all I've actually cut off is that which came off 40, I think that's 10 centimeters, and that which came off 10, and I've explained why I think I need to do that. So stick with the original measurements in the instructions and you'll either be bang on or not very far off. And to avoid any potential risk of upsetting the tune, mark the radiating plate where you had the elements positioned so you can attach them in the same place in future. And I would also recommend numbering the clamps and the spreader plates from 1 to 11, and then you can put them back in the right order. Right, so all that remains now is to put some heat shrink tube on the elements. So there's 10 meters up there somewhere. There's a little bit of white tape, 17, 20 and 40 at the top. 40 needs a bit more shrink tube because of its long fallback, so you just need to shrink tube that together. And that's it, job's a good one. So the next video in this series will be some field trials, so stay tuned. Well, thanks for watching, and I hope that was of use if you're building an expedition antenna. If you like and subscribe, and remember to ring the bell, you'll be notified of future videos when they're released. 7-3.